I think I've lost the ability to let people in.
Hi.
I think that's everybody joined. I think so.
Yay.
I think so. Can I ask everybody just to mute if you're not speaking, just so we've got clarity for the recording? That would be great. Thank you. And if you're comfortable with this, we will be recording this just so that Richard can use that for future as well. So, good evening, good afternoon, or maybe even good morning for anybody joining around the world. Thank you for buying your advance ticket to join us and to reserve your seat. Please keep the aisles free of clear of your luggage just as I get started. Today we're going to be launching Richard's book, The Return to the End of the Line, which is a return for Richard, being his tricky second album, building on the success of his first book, Memories from the End of the Line. And that was published in 2021. Itself was an anthology of photographs and stories, taking us the length and breadth of the City of London, all via the major train stations. I'm Vic Wilson-Crane. I'm your conductor for this journey. And I offered Richard, I secretly hoped that he'd give me the chance to do this, so I'm really honoured. So yeah, I'm going to be your conductor here this evening, afternoon, morning. I'm going to help him present his book launch, and I'm going to give The Return to the End of the Line a platform. I'm a fellow author, and I'm a fan of Richard's first book. And I had a little hand in editing some of this second edition, along with several other people, and some of you I know are here this evening. So I had a sneak preview of the content, and it's both a work of art and a fantastic addition to the body of knowledge. And it's just got information in it that all of us really need to know. I travel by public transport a lot, and I take photographs a lot. So it was an obvious choice for me to want to be in the driver's cabin this evening. So thank you, Richard, for accepting my offer. We're going to have a few things this evening, including some video resources, which all worked perfectly in rehearsals, of which there have been many. So I hope things are going to run smoothly this evening, but do let us know in the chat if we need to tweak anything for you. Tonight, you're going to have an all zones experience. The chance for a line-side view of how The Return to the End of the Line was put together. We're going to hear from the designer of the book, and also from a very special guest, Michael Heppel. And we'll have a unique opportunity to hear from Richard himself, from the author, and the chance to ask him any questions. If you want to get ahead of yourself with that and would like to pop any questions in the chat, please do so now. We have got a limited time here with you this evening, so any questions not answered, I'm sure Richard will follow up in writing with his great blog and email updates that he provides us all with. So my job is to try and keep you to timetable this evening, and I'll really try and do that. So without further ado, I'd like to invite the brilliant Michael Heppel, Sunday Times #1 best-selling author, to give us a few words and tell us his impressions of Richard's new book, Return to the End of the Line.
Well, thank you very much, Vic. Can I just say, that is the best introduction to a book launch I've ever heard. Absolutely sensational. And you can't have too many train puns. That's the thing, there aren't too many. So I hope you've got a few more up your sleeve for a little bit later on. So this is one of those moments where when Richard sent me this book, he also added these, he added a packet of tissues. And for those people who were around for the very first book that Richard produced, you will know that I had a few tears. It was very emotional. And the reason why it was emotional was because I knew the journey that he'd been on. It sounds like such a cliche, doesn't it, to say somebody's been on a journey when they've been writing their book. But it was so much more than just writing the book and taking the photographs. It was also the confidence to put something that you are so passionate about, that's almost been a secret project for so long, and to say to other people, well, what do you think? So doing the first one was great because, you know, you've got all that work and you're able to put it out there, and it's very, very much from the heart. To do a second book, and to do a second book which follows a theme, is very, very difficult, because it has to be new and it has to be fresh. But at the same time, one of the things that people love is familiarity. You don't want to pick up a John Grisham book and to suddenly find it's a completely different style. You want a new plot, you want new characters, but also you want that familiarity. And that's what Richard's been able to do. And I know that Jen worked very hard with the design. I'm sure that Richard's going to talk about that, to give us that familiarity, but also to make it fresh. And the thing that makes it really fresh for me come in two different ways. First of all, obviously, the photographs. The photographs are brilliant. I love the photos, and I've pulled out a few of my favorites from this one. So I'm going to share them with you now. And my first one, which I think a lot of people will absolutely love, is this one here, Narrowboat. Can you see that there? And the guy with the hat on and his shirt off, I felt like he must have some tails. He looks a bit dodgy. There's something about him, but I can't see his face. And I'm delighted I can't see his face. And it's kind of part of the magic of that. And when I look at it, and then obviously you look at the person, and then suddenly over on the side, you see that incredibly wrinkled dog, the one that needs a good iron. Did you spot the dog? You know, the dog there just needs an iron, doesn't it? Just to get those wrinkles out. And I just thought that was absolutely beautiful. My next one was when we went over to this part. And when you go to Southeastern, for some reason, I'm not quite sure why, but I think that Richard's just thought, I need to get more people. I'm going to capture more people. And there's loads and loads of very obvious pictures of people. But this one, hello, Greg Foreman. Just wearing that T-shirt with, a Where's Wally being Lionel Richie, just totally grabbed me. But then I thought, you know what I really want to do? I want to find out about these people. And that's the thing that's very intriguing with this book as well. It's the stories. And what I've noticed is that Richard has become a better writer. The first one was great, but now it's even better. It's more intriguing. It's more in depth. He does what's known in the trade as open and close loops. He'll give you a little hint of something, but you have to keep going to find out the details. And one of the great ways that he does that is with this idea of, asking us questions. Rather than having a blank page, ask a question and just get your mind whirring and thinking about the book as you go through it. So, Richard, I have to say, I've loved it. Again, I've loved it. I didn't cry, but I've certainly giggled. I didn't cry, but you've certainly made me question some things that I took for granted. I didn't cry, but I want to visit these stations. I want to wander around Paddington and have a bit of time. I want to visit places and kind of say, where he did that close up, where's the bigger one? And where he did the bigger one, where can I go in a little bit closer? You've done it again, my friend. Once again, you've managed to write something, create something that's stimulating, entertaining, and above all, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Really generous and really kind feedback there. And I'll say thank you on Richard's behalf for that. Can we have a round of applause, actually, please? Thank you. Thank you. That's fab.
Vic, can I have the right to reply?
You may.
Michael, thank you very much. 5 years ago, 4 years ago, however many years ago, when we had that very first conversation, when I sent you a message saying, what's this Write That Book stuff about? And you rang me within 5 minutes and then within 6 minutes, I signed up to your Write That Book. I've never looked back, so thank you very much. And your words mean a lot to me, so I really appreciate you being here tonight and appreciate your words. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Richard. I think possibly the coal that fueled Richard's writing journey, if we can continue with the pun. Okay, thank you. We're going to move on now. A little bit how the book came together. We've got some stories around this that we'd like to share with you this evening. So Richard's put a brief presentation together to take us through some of the key design principles that Jen, and I'm so glad you're with us this evening, Jen Garside magicked in crafting Richard's words and photos into the beautiful sequel that is The Return to the End of the Line. Take it away, Richard.
Thanks, Vic. Jen, does everyone know Jen? Jen, put your hand up. There we are. Jen is a magician, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. When I introduced myself to Jen 3 years ago for book one, we'd never met. I only knew Jen through other authors who'd had illustrations created by Jen for their children's books. So other than that, I knew Jen as a children's illustrator. So when I threw my words together and chucked my pictures at Jen and said, I have a vision for a book, it looks something like this. Jen said, yeah, okay, I'll have a go. And 2 weeks later, she presented Memories to the End of the Line, version 1. And it was stunning. And since then, she's magicked and created 2 wonderful, colorful books. So let me take you through some of the design principles that Jen created and we worked on that became book number 2. So I'm going to share with you. My host needs to disable the sharing so I can share something with you. Vic, now that you're the host, can you disable the share?
I've tried to change the settings, but I'm not sure.
Here we go. Okay. So you should be able to see a slide deck headed Return to the End of the Line, a design view. Some of the things I wanted from both books was a simple and clean book, full of color, obviously full of photographs. And as we go through some of the design principles, reviewing it with any book, review. Actually, did we only review 8 times, Jen? I forget. But let me walk you through some of the things that we did. This is one of those newspaper questions where you see, can you spot the changes between pictures on the left and the picture on the right? They're subtle, but subtle enough to want to make a difference. The front cover, the one on the right is the finished article. The difference really is I've brought the picture in a little bit. There's less cloud, so it fills the picture. It's a fuller picture. I wanted to showcase the 3 trains sitting on the platform, and the picture is one of the pictures in the book, and it has the title of Full House. I just thought that epitomizes and was the perfect choice for the cover picture. The bottom picture, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is outside Fenchurch Street, and the difference there is the ISBN number. The first cut is really just a mock-up to show what the back cover would look like. The final picture is with the right ISBN on it. Now, this is Jen's view of how she puts the book together. I have little idea of I recognize the pages because I can see the colors. I have no doubt that there are many times when I've said, Jen, can you move this or can you change that? I say this glibly. It may well be a case of just clicking and dragging a page from one place to another. I'm sure that may be the case, Jen, or it may not be the case. But seeing this view and seeing the page spread out as it is, gives a different view and different perspective on how you've been working on it. Now, to me, color is the key for the book. And the colors represent, as they did in book one, the different train lines. And I've used the same color coding that the train companies use. And I've carefully selected the colors. The train line companies have a specific color. And the way the colors are presented is called a hex color, hexadecimal color. It's a way of presenting a color in binary fashion. I'm not going to try and explain it. Look it up on the internet. The answer's there. But it's a way of making sure I get the exact color replicated through the book. And that color then is modeled right throughout the book. So if anyone saw the color and knew their train lines, they would instantly recognize which train company is being represented. So the color fashions through each chapter. Now, talked about reviewing. It's very important. I've deliberately put this page on. Now, you may or may not instantly recognize there's a problem on this page. Now, Jen nor I recognized or saw what the problem was until I submitted the book for printing to Mixum, the printers. It is only after I'd pressed the button to say, yes, I want to print 120 copies, that Mixum came back and says, did you know that if you look at the top right-hand corner for South Western Railway, it actually says South, S-O-U-R-T-H Western. So credit to Mixum for spotting that. They could easily have printed that, and I would have ended up with 120 copies with a blatant misspelling, not just on one page, but on several pages. So well done, Mixum. So you just can't not check and review and review and review. So my advice to anyone is get someone else to review it for you, someone who's not emotionally attached to a book, so that they can look at it objectively rather than subjectively and with emotion. And just for fun, Michael has commented on the questions I've posed in the book. And the reason I've done that, for a bit of fun, but in putting a book together of this size, the number of pages needs to be divisible by 4 because of the way that Mixum produces the books. So as part of the design and putting the principles together, there were some blank pages. I could have left them in there, but the book would have looked a bit odd. So a way of filling the book was to create some questions. And I did this with book 1 as well. So I fashioned some questions that lead you through. And if you want, you can search the questions. The answers are at the back of the book. That's the easy way out. But if you want to explore the book, then it's a way of encouraging you to look through the book. And I put this picture at the very end of the book because there was a blank page at the very end of the book. And another thing that Mixum did for me, when I sent for my final proof copy, there was a blank page. But when I got my proof back, they actually printed a blank page with blank written on it. So I decided to remove that and put this final picture in the back of the book. And finally, what you have noticed from the book is that the end pages, as you open the hardcover inside and at the back cover, is the black page. I felt that the black end pages inside the front cover and back cover just complemented the book in such a nice way. I thought it was a nice finish to the book. So just some of the things that Jen and I worked on in bringing the book together. I hope you found that helpful, interesting.
Thanks, Richard. Fascinating to hear some of the design decisions that come behind producing such a great work that you have. And Jen, I know Richard's very, very grateful for the input that you've had and the hard work that you put into producing his book. So thank you on Richard's behalf for everything that you've done. Richard is actually next to take the platform because he's going to give us a really short reading from a section around Fenchurch Street, which is in the early part of his book, Return to the End of the Line. I know it wasn't easy choosing what you were going to read, Richard, but I know you've picked a goodie for us as well. So I'm going to hand back to you now if I can.
Thanks, Vic. Well, I was going to read a preceded version of the history of the British Rail. and it's 4 pages in the book, and I priced it down to 2. And when I read it, I thought, oh, this is a bit dull and boring. And I thought, well, if I could have priced it, why didn't I price it in the book? And then I thought, well, why don't I read one of the chapters? So which is what I'm doing. And as I was reading it, I thought, well, why don't I put together, not talk about just the picture in the book, but about my journey of the day. So I've put together a short video. I'll take you on the journey that I took of that day, starting at Fenchurch Street, talk about the picture that I took, and then you can follow me through the story and through some of the pictures I took on that day, just to help you understand the story and a little bit more about the pictures I saw on that day. So again, bear with me as I find the right
As Richard does this and finds the file, just be conscious that we can't always see video in the same way when this is being broadcast. So if you have got problems, can you drop a note in the chat, please? Else we'll just let the video run.
The City of London. This picture, in some way, for me, epitomizes London's colour and beauty. And the fact it's almost devoid of people symbolises the moment when an invisible terror emptied London during the COVID pandemic in May 2021. The city is the financial heart of London and the UK, colloquially known as the Square Mile. It's a city, a ceremonial county, and a local government district. Those familiar with London will know the city demarks its boundary with its heraldry and bollards, and these I've captured in this photo are interlaced with the Royal Mail postboxes. There was a humorous moment when I took this shot as an unmarked policeman was travelling up the road with his siren blaring and blue lights flashing. It was, I suspect, mindlessly following a sat-nav or an old map, as it suddenly turned as if trying to go down the path now blocked. Then, a few seconds later, blue lights and siren off, it limps back down the road. Fenchurch Street. The city is quiet, and despite some easement of the COVID pandemic lockdown restrictions, the area surrounding the station is empty. Even at lunchtime, I counted only 3 people sitting in a small piazza outside the station. A seated area, I would imagine on a normal day, would have been crowded with office workers stretching their legs from the towering office buildings around. And walking through and under the station's arches was somewhat surreal. Those with an active imagination, or possibly having played too many zombie games, could imagine this to be a post-apocalyptic, I could never get this word right, apocalyptic London. The beauty of exploring such a historical city is that you just don't know what you'll find. For example, 3 place names that sit side by side conjure up the mystery of the past. There's the French Ordinary Court, St. Catherine's Row, and Crutched Friars. Do you have any guesses on the meaning and purposes behind these names? There's a well-known pub, the Cheshire Cheese, under the arches in Crutched Friars, which you would generally see full of city workers enjoying themselves at any time of day. But today, it's all shut up as part of the restrictions. Even though they could be serving outside, the fact they are very few city workers would not make it financially viable to trade. Even the area surrounding the old stock exchange building and bank is devoid of traffic and people. The roads are cordoned off to create wider cycle lanes, but there are still few cyclists and buses. It's an unusual scene and a memory that will last forever. However, I took advantage of the quiet roads and explored the parade of shops surrounding the old stock exchange buildings. High-end fashionable brands entice bankers and traders. Although open, there is no passing custom. I can't begin to imagine how traders have survived during the pandemic. Maybe some haven't. Nevertheless, the shops presented a visual delight, and I admired their awning symmetry, although I did have to stand in the middle of the road to get the best shot. Not something to try when traffic returns to normal. Fenchurch Street. I hope you enjoyed that.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Yeah, it's a round of applause. Lovely. I think such a poignant
Thank you.
time as well. And if we recall sort of the last couple of years and some of the times in which you were taking some of these photographs and how that city has seen significant footfall, but also significant peace and quiet as well, and completely unexpected peace and quiet. Really touching. Thank you. That's great to see. I think from everything you've shared so far, there's been such excitement around your book, which has been really, really good to see. And I think you've already had some comments and feedback from other people who've shared what they've made of your book as well. So I think it's nice to celebrate and nice to hear that good feedback. It's all we really want as authors. It's helpful to help us know what we're doing right, but also gives us feedback about how we can improve things, which is, again, what we're all about. And it also helps other potential readers explore our work and find our work. So, Richard, I think you have some feedback that you'd like to share already from Return to the End of the Line. Is that right?
Must remember to unmute. Yes, I have. Yes, during the editorial process, I had many friends, including yourself, Vic, and Roger, who's here, and Sarah, and a few others. So thank you for your time. You don't know how appreciative I am of your time, your thoughts, your comments, your feedback. Excuse me, I need a drink.
Take a sip.
Because every word, every thought, every experience helps to shape. Don't always listen to the thoughts and ideas, but it helps me think and rethink and decide on what I think is the best thing to change or not to change. And also feedback from those of you who bought the book and passed comment. And from those who've got the book, you'll have seen that I've asked you to pass comment on either across your social media, great that you have, or onto Goodreads. Wow, our 10 minutes marker is up. So Vic, we've got 10 minutes left.
We're fine.
I think we're doing good on time. So I put some words together. I had created a video, but in rehearsal, the video quality wasn't very good because I'd mashed the video up of all the 56 photographs with some AI-generated voice snips. So rather than throw across to you a poor quality, but I'm going to blog about that. I've put together a very quick presentation, just 6 slides, with some of the words. I'll read through them quickly because I think the words need to be read. Just playing with some creative pictures. If you have an interest in London's railways, or indeed if you are a user of transport for London's rail network, then you will definitely find something of interest and something new to learn in this book. Richard creates a journey brought to life through his observations and photography, capturing the many and varied aspects of travelling in and around London into a beautiful second book. I love that you put the camera settings for each image. So many great images and snippets about each place and the people you met. You can see I'm not going to read everyone. A book laid out with precision and uniformity. It has beautiful images and brilliant descriptions. Both are brilliant books and so very interesting. Congratulations yet again, Richard Thomas, another brilliant book. Your book looks amazing. Well done on getting it over the line. Pun. I like this one. Sometimes you buy stuff because you want to support a talented friend. Sometimes you buy stuff because you just love trains and public transport. Double whammy. If you're looking for a unique present for a photographer, lover of London, or someone who likes exploring places by train, this book is perfect. Richard Thomas has created a book of photography and facts about areas near stations. It is fascinating, interesting, and easy to follow for anyone who has no idea, but will learn so much from the way you present it. Dare I say, an improvement on End of the Line 1. Richard creates a journey brought to life through his observations. I think I've already read that one out before. Doot. There we go.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard. It's great to hear what people have said about your book. I would encourage anybody who either already has your book or is considering purchasing your book to support you in terms of providing that feedback through Goodreads. And Sarah, we can see a copy there. Actually, while you've got that here, anybody else got a copy? Can we see that? Fantastic. Would you mind if I take a bit of a screenshot? if we can say 1, 2, 3, leaves on the line, can you show your copy? I'll take a screenshot.
Leaves on the line.
Perfect, I've got that. Thank you, that's great. Excellent. Okay, so I said right at the start we'd have a chance to ask Richard some questions, and a couple of questions have appeared in the chat, mostly around what's coming next. And I know you want to close out with a comment about what's coming next, Richard, but just some suggestions about places you might go next. Scotland was mentioned, settle to Carlisle was mentioned, particularly Ian was asking about whether there's going to be some kind of trilogy. So just 1 or 2 minutes on that, if you can, Richard, please.
Ooh, is Sue on the call, my wife?
I was wondering that, actually.
I need to have the conversation with Sue first about what I'm doing. So forgive me. I am on a third project called Coddywampling Along the Thames. For those who haven't come across the term before, the word coddywample I discovered from Susie Dent on Countdown. It actually means, and I'm going to read this because I can never remember, a journey undertaken without a specific destination in mind, taken simply for the pleasure of the journey itself. And when I heard that, I thought, that's what I do, and that's what I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, going somewhere without really knowing where I'm going. And that describes it. So I'm traveling. So instead of going to a train station and then starting to walk around, I'm now going to each of the London bridges and each of the London piers and each of the main rivers that fall into the Thames as my starting point of a destination. And then just walking around that area, see where I go, doing exactly the same as I'm doing.
Great, thanks, Richard. I think there was just a question actually in the chat about how long it took to kind of research your book from kind of start to finish. Would you mind commenting on that, please?
Book 2, I started whilst I was writing book 1 in terms of taking the photographs. I think 2 years in terms of photography, probably 6 months to write. Although whilst I was taking the photographs, I was blogging about my weekly visits. So the words were there, but actually converting the blog into a paragraph and then doing some research about the train companies and the railway lines, that probably took another 6 months. I hated that part because I'm not a writer.
I beg to differ. You've published 2 books.
And then when I gave all the material to Jen, and she says, "You've got too many words here."
We want fewer words. Excellent. I'm sure there may be other questions. Are you comfortable if people would like to send questions to you, Richard, by your email to get your response to that, and maybe you can blog about
Absolutely, yes.
our benefit?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
Excellent, thank you. I can see a question just came through then too, so I'll make sure Richard follows up on that in terms of your most enjoyable place to visit. But just really, really conscious of time. Just want to thank everybody for joining this evening and participating, and also for showing us your copies of Return to the End of the Line. It's great to see people with copies in hand. If you don't already have a copy, we'll pop the link shortly. Actually, I think Richard's done that into the chat. The bit.ly link is an opportunity if you would like to either buy a copy for yourself or maybe as a gift. There's a gifting festival coming up. I don't know whether anybody would be interested in that as a gift opportunity. It's a great present, certainly for anybody interested in photographs or trains or both. So yeah, just would encourage you to do that, obviously, and just look out for what's coming next, because this is not the end of the line. Certainly, I'm sure there's far more to come. Thank you so much for your support this evening. It's been so great to see everybody. And I think we're just going to round out with the video that we began with as we started. Have a great rest of the evening and enjoy Return to the End of the Line.